Welcome to Focal Length Attributes. We're going to take a look at the lens and how it makes a difference in your pictures today, whether you use a wide-angle lens, a normal lens, or a long-angle lens. Let's take a look. So as we take the lens perspective and we zoom in with our camera, it will change, obviously, what's in the frame. A bigger number means there's less in the frame, but notice what it does to depth of field. Here, the camera settings are not changing. We're consistently the same aperture, the same shutter speed, the same ISO, but the only difference is the depth of field and what's in the frame is a little bit different. A wider angle lens will have more in focus. A longer lens will narrow that depth of field. A 50mm lens is what we consider a normal angle of view because it's approximately what we see with the human eye, 48, 49mm angle of view. Anything much wider than that, 35mm, is considered a wide-angle lens. It changes a lot of the perspective. It looks different because it's not what we naturally walk around seeing with our own human eyes. Now, take our monkey friend here. All these are shot with the same camera settings, the same shutter speed, the same aperture, the same ISO. So the depth of field changes are not coming from the camera itself. It's from the distance to our subject matter. We have a normal angle lens compared to the 28mm lens. 90mm lens, 155mm lens, 320mm lens. There's a big difference between super wide to a long lens. Let's take a look at the difference here between our wide angle lens and our long lens. It's different perspective. The monkey's about the same size in the frame, but the way the camera's getting its angle, its perspective view in here, is changing how that's functioning. We get more in focus. We see more, recognize more of the background. In fact, we get more of the background. You don't even tell what's going on for sure, but you're not even seeing really much of the porch. It's being cropped out of that angled perspective with the monkey. Now let's put that into human speaking terms. Differences of a wide angle lens versus a zoom lens makes a big difference in how the person's perspective looks. I call it the bumblebee look. They look almost to swell with a wide-angle lens like they're stung and they're allergic, where it has a different compression of the face. It makes a big difference whether you're using a long lens or a narrow lens. Makes a big difference whether you're using a long lens or a wide lens in how they portrait the pleasingness. Can the camera add weight? Absolutely. A wide-angle lens will make someone appear to have maybe added some pounds. A bride doesn't want to look overweight because the photographer doesn't know what they're doing. The choice of their lens does make a big difference. If you have any bad examples or fun stories or maybe things you've seen in the past, go ahead and leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you have to say about uses of photography, good and bad choices of a wide-angle lens or a long-angle lens. Going on with focal length lens, it does get a little confusing with the digital era. We've changed a lot of things. The 35mm film era used to have a set size. 24 by 36mm was the frame size for your film. Now the cell phone cameras, the digital cameras, all have a variety of different sizes. If you hear a full frame camera, you're going to be using the same size as the film era cameras. Now if you have something that's smaller, which you have like a crop factor sensor, cell phones today are using a smaller type sensor, maybe the size of your pinky fingernail, maybe a little bit bigger than that, to actually do the pixelization capture. Now that's significant because if it's a smaller recording device, they're packing more information. They're not going to get some of the detail, the colors as easily as you might with a larger sensor. Now cell phones and some of the ways they've got some capture and technology is starting to get pretty impressive. But a smaller sensor compared to a larger sensor typically won't have some of the details and resolution, but it also will change in how wide of an angle or different angle perspective is going to be. You'll hear the 35mm equivalent. This phone is at 8mm, but it's the 35mm equivalent of a normal angle of view. So a millimeter size makes a big difference, and there's some very complicated math depending on the sensor size of your camera or your phone. But most of the time it'll give you that in the settings in Bridge for sure if you look closely. Wide angle lens. Having that wide angle lens, some people like that look, and it's useful for some things. It's a different perspective showing the huge field of tulips. But you can also see typically here a wide angle distortion. The building seems warped. The cars have some warping to them. It's not as pleasant here as we have kind of this extreme wide distortion with the tulips. it can be used for a fun aspect. So don't think you have to always be afraid of the wide angle distortion. There are some creative uses I've seen along the way that actually work pretty well. So leave a comment. Ways you like the wide angle lens. Maybe you're one that doesn't leave the wide angle lens. I don't know. But I look forward to seeing what you have to say about focal length attributes and how you use them today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Better Picks in just a few clicks.